Bonnie Krebs, creator of Watercolor the Art Impressions Way. I'm about to show you how to watercolor using rubber stamps and markers. It's quick, it's easy, it's fun, it's great for all ages. Try it, you are going to love it.
This project is from our Project 7 series called In My Garden, and we're going to stamp this little project using the watercolor bench. This takes a few more minutes than some of our really simple projects, but it's kind of fun to have something that's a little more difficult and a little more challenging, and it's worth a little extra time to do this project. So I'm going to start with the bench, and I'm going to color the back using our number 45 sepia. I'm just going to ink the back of the stamp like this. And I'm going to ink the bench with the 45 sepia, but the little cat on the front, because we're going to leave it white, I'm going to ink with a little lighter color. That's the nice thing about using a stamp, is because you can just ink the areas that you want to ink. You have a lot more versatility than just using an ink pad. So I'm going to use a little lighter color. This is a number 40. And I've got the bench inked with the 45, and now I'm going to go back in here and just ink this little cat with the number 40. I'm going to stamp it now on my watercolor paper. It's really important to use watercolor paper, not cardstock. And I'm going to stamp it on here. Okay, now I've got my image on here, and I'm going to add this little birdhouse, and I think this time I'm going to just set it up on top of this bench and maybe just use part of it. So I want to ink it and stamp it on my watercolor paper, but I want to make sure that I'm getting it in the right spot. So I'm going to use my positioner. This is just a little L shape with a plastic grid or a plastic shield, and I'm going to ink my birdhouse. This sort of takes all the guesswork out of where to place these stamps, is to just use a positioner like this. So stamp it in the corner, and now I can see exactly where this is going to go. There's a lot of different ways that you could use this birdhouse. We could stamp it over to the side and just use your fine point marker. All of these Le Plum markers have a fine point, and you can just draw in a little post here and make it freestanding. You could set it on the bench next to the cat. If you were going to do that, you would stamp this first, and then cut out a mask and cover it, and then stamp the bench over the top. So that would protect your birdhouse from being inked over the top. So this time I think I'm going to set it up on top of the bench, and I'm just going to use part of it. I think I'm just going to use this top part of the birdhouse, so it's a little bit smaller. So now I'm going to, oops, stop. I got my palette in the way. Okay. Okay, so.
Now start.
Okay, so I'm going to place my positioner back in place, remove my plastic shield, and now I know exactly where to stamp this birdhouse. I'm just going to clean off the bottom because I don't want to ink that, and just ink this again. Just the top part. And now I can stamp it back in here, and I have my little birdhouse right where I want it. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next step. And the next step, if you've watched any of our videos, you know it's pulling the color out of the lines with the damp brush. So I've just gotten my brush a little bit wet, and I'm just going to follow these lines. You can see this kind of gives it that watercolor look already. Just going to follow these lines here. You don't need to get too much water on here. In fact, it's really important that you don't get too much water. We don't want to lose our lines. The sepia color has a little bit of green in it, and it works really great for these types of projects. Looks like the out of doors. Okay, same with the cat. Just going to soften these lines a little bit. Okay, now that I've got that done, I'm going to go to my palette, and I'm going to add some water to this green. And this color on my palette is just from the marker that I've just drawn right on here. All of these products and all of these stamps are available on our website. Just go to artimpressions.com, shop our store, and you can get all of these watercolor accessories. So now I've got some water on here, and I'm just going to brush in the background green. This will give us a little bit of a background where we're going to put our foliage, a little bit of depth, and don't worry about how to brush this on. Just get the color on here. Wherever you think that you're going to stamp some vines or some greenery, put this green in the background. A little bit under here. We're going to stamp some grass under here and some flowers. So I want to make sure that I get the green under here. Okay, maybe a little bit in between these posts here as well. So we're going to have some foliage in here too. Okay, got that done. Now you want to make sure that this dries completely, because before we start stamping on it, you want to just make sure that it's dry to the touch. So we're going to go on now and add some color to the bench and to the birdhouse. And I'm going to use number 17 blue. This is the number 17, and mix it a little bit with the number 15 green. Just mix these together, get a little bit of a blue color. And again, I don't want too much color. I'm just going to brush this on really lightly. Don't worry about coloring in all the white areas. We just want to get the look of the color on here. It's not important to get every single area. We want it to have that watercolor look. And we can always go back in later and add a little bit more darker color. We get some shadows in there. And we're going to leave this cat white, so we really want this little cat to pop out, so I want to make sure we get enough color all around her on the bench. Put a little bit darker color underneath this post, a bit more of a shadow. And we'll do a little bit more of that later on. Okay, now we're ready to add some color to the birdhouse. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of purple. This is the number 8 purple. And I think I'm just going to add color to this part of the birdhouse. A little darker in the back side. And for the roof, I'm going to use the number 45. Again, that's the color that we started with. And remember, you always take the color off of the palette. You don't want to draw directly onto your watercolor paper unless you're using the fine point. I'm going to add a little bit of dark color in here. And if you use just the tip of your brush, pinch it off and use the edge, you can add a little bit of detail to this as well. Okay, got the little birdhouse finished. Now we're ready to stamp our foliage on around the bench. So I'm going to start with this little vine, and I'm going to ink it with the number 15. And I'm just going to start putting this vine all around. This doesn't matter where you stamp this. And the neat thing about these projects is they turn out different every time, but they're so easy to do because, you know, all these stamps work together, and, you know, they're all made to go together as far as size and perspective, so you don't really have to worry about how to put these pictures together.